Max Verstappen's chances to drive for Mercedes in 2026 have been shut down by Toto Wolff, and the Dutch driver didn't stay quiet about it. Even though Max has fewer choices now if he wants to leave Red Bull, the Dutch driver gave a pretty clear hint about what he might do in F1. Could we see him leave the Austrian team if the new rules in 2026 turn out to be really bad for Red Bull? And more importantly, is this Aston Martin's chance to get him? There's no doubt that Mercedes and Verstappen have created the biggest drama in Formula One. But now, that seems to finally be over. The team boss of Mercedes, Toto Wolff, said that he wants to go into the new rules with Russell and Antonelli. This is like slamming the door shut on Max Verstappen. And even though there weren't clear signs that the four-time world champion was going to move to Mercedes, it was still something that kept all the F1 reporters really excited. Now that Wolff has finally talked about these rumors, we can see how big of a change might be coming after 2026. But in the first year of the new rules, I don't think we should expect major changes. Talking more about Max and Mercedes, and the drama that's been going on for a long time, Wolff said, "We've been talking about this for weeks and months. So, everyone knows what's happening. We want to keep going with George and Kimi. That's what we want to do first. You can't ignore someone like Max and what he wants to do in the future. We thought about it, but I don't think there will be any big surprises." All of this started because people saw that both Wolff and Max were in Sardinia, Italy at the same time, and it looked like a huge move was going to happen at any moment. However, with everything that's happening right now, I really doubt that Wolff would try to get Verstappen anymore for 2026. But that's not the end of the story. We'll come back to this. But first, let's see what Max said about Wolff's public rejection. "Well, I was swimming in the ocean at that time. I don't really care about those things because I went on vacation with my friends and family. And when other people are also there at the same time, that can happen. I mean, there are more people on the island than just me and Toto and his family. If you go to the same island, that can happen. But this still doesn't solve the mystery of where Max is going to drive in the future. Right now, it looks like starting in 2026, the Dutch driver will leave Red Bull unless something amazing happens and he loses 18 points to Russell in the next two races. This would drop him to 4th place in the championship and would let him use his exit clause automatically. But now that he knows Mercedes doesn't want him, or at least they're saying that publicly, and Aston Martin is happy with their drivers for 2026, will either of these teams make a move? Talking about his worries about 2026 and what the new rules will bring, Verstappen said, "There's also the chance of not waking up tomorrow, so there's no driving at all. Life is unpredictable, and in general, I'm happy with where I am. The goal was that when I signed my contract, I would drive here until the end of my career." What's also interesting is that Max was sure that firing Horner had nothing to do with his decision to think about leaving Red Bull, because he's focused on finding more speed in the RB21 and maybe getting back into the championship fight. Still, Red Bull is missing technical experts starting with Pierre Waugh and Enrico Balbo. Red Bull did fire a lot of people with her being the latest person to go, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's much to do here other than Verstappen focusing completely on the first year of the new rules and seeing if this team could be his home from 2027 onwards. When talking about how Horner leaving affected him and whether it changed the feeling with the new management, Verstappen said, "Of course, when there's a change like that on the first day, people are a bit like, okay, what's happening? But luckily, I think the day after the announcement, I was at the factory doing my simulator work and you just go back to work. We have to work on making the car faster, setting up the car here, and making sure that everything works together in the best way possible. And yeah, you just focus on that because at the end of the day, that's my job." So, let's think about the worst thing that could happen for Red Bull and Max. The Austrian team fails to build a fast car, and they end up in the middle of the pack or at the back, depending on how bad their engine is. From early reports, people think that Red Bull's engine will be the weakest on the grid along with Audi. But when you have Verstappen in that car, I don't think you could say that they won't be competitive at all. But on the other hand, if you are Max Verstappen and you won't be happy fighting in the middle of the pack or for small points, you'd want to get out of the team as soon as possible. And the first chance for that would be Mercedes. We're talking about 2027, when Aston Martin could also try to sign the four-time world champion. By this time, Mercedes and Aston Martin will definitely know which one will be better than the other, and it would make life much easier for Max to choose. However, it's not automatic that they would go for Verstappen no matter how much it costs, even though the four-time world champion is worth every penny he'll ask for. But if these two teams have great facilities with fast cars, and if their drivers are fighting at the front, then why do they need to sign Verstappen urgently? If Russell, Antonelli, or Alonso can fight for championships, then what do you gain by having Verstappen win all of those championships instead of them? Other than Alonso, who's in his 40s and will probably retire after next season. This is why the bosses at Mercedes didn't want to bring in Max Verstappen in the first place. They brought in and trained two very good drivers in Russell and Antonelli, and replacing either one of them with an outside hire like Verstappen is just not a great idea. However, reports have come out that the CEO of Mercedes, Ola Klenius, is ready to go behind Wolff's back and everything he can to sign Verstappen. At this point, it's literally a power struggle between Ola and Wolff, because despite all the technical progress that's been made at Mercedes, he still wants to have the four-time world champion as his team's driver. Nevertheless, I don't think this is going to happen. And that's also what Martin Brundle thinks, who talked to Verstappen directly about this. The F1 commentator felt like the changes in 2026 won't happen, although that's not a promise for 2027 or beyond. And explaining more about this, Martin said, "I think the conversation that Verstappen and Wolff had was part of what was going on. But on Thursday, Max was like, it's all about having a fast car. I just want a fast car, and I think Horner's exit means he'll now stay. I'm sure he'll now stay at Red Bull for 2026 and see what happens. A conversation I had last night seems to confirm that. But the performance isn't exactly terrible, is it?" All of this is pointing to the fact that Verstappen is going to patiently wait for 2026 to end and see where his chances are. Right now, I don't think there will be any chance for him to compete at the front, and we'll most likely see number 33 return in 2026. But if Red Bull and Ford let him down with their engine, then there should be nothing left for Max to stay for. Loyalty has a price, and if the Austrian team isn't ready to pay it, then they need to be ready to see Max leave his contract. After all, he's won 4 championships with the team, the first one being the legendary battle against Hamilton, while the last one was in the third fastest car on the grid, something that hasn't happened since 1983. With all of this in mind, what do you think about Max's comments about Toto Wolff's rejection of the contract talks from 2026 onwards? And more importantly, do you think that Klenius will use his power and try to go behind Toto's back to try and sign Max from 2026 onwards? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.